Okay guys, Season 2 of Solo Leveling drops in either October or November, and I literally just finished Season 1 this month, but I wanted to talk about it before I'm completely left in the dust because guys, we definitely have a good power fantasy anime, and the reason behind why it's so good is stupidly simple, so let's talk about it right here in this review. So if you're a fan of anime and manga, you've probably associated the term power fantasy with the isekai genre, and that's fair. Many of the most famous power fantasies are just that, and the most well-known of them being Sword Art Online, a series that, well, has its own fair share of problems. But while Solo Leveling does share some isekai properties, such as the character being reborn with the ability to grow stronger, it does not involve the character being transported to another world. In fact, the series is more in line with a regression story than anything else. But what is Solo Leveling about? Well, here's what we know as of Season 1. For whatever reason, a phenomenon known as gates began appearing all over the world, which, when walked through, leads the person into a dungeon that is filled with monsters as well as valuable resources. Around the same time these gates spawned, human beings began developing their own set of superhuman abilities and became known as hunters, with there being tank hunters and warrior hunters and mage hunters, so it's almost like a video game classification system. So a hunter's job is to enter those dungeons, take the resources, kill the dungeon boss, and close the gate. And due to its profitability, guilds emerged, acting almost as, like, sports teams, actively recruiting the hunters with the highest potential levels for the profit and prestige that clearing these dungeons comes with. This created a world where the guilds and specific hunters have more control over the world than specific government officials or entire governments. That said, there is an important caveat when it comes to being a hunter. A hunter's ability is locked at the moment they awaken their powers. And a hunter may fall into classes S through E, with S being the highest, and are unable to change ranks at all, no matter how hard they train or try. They are locked into the class that they were born into. The gates that pop up also follow a similar ranking system, and many E-rank hunters, if you're at the bottom, while they're not making millions, they do about as well as like a standard tradesman. However, there is one exception to this inability to upgrade your class rule, and that is, of course, the ability that belongs to our protagonist, Jin Wu, who, after straight up dying in extremely rare events known as a double dungeon, gains the ability to level up with video game-like properties to transform himself from mankind's weakest hunter to potentially the strongest hunter of all time. And now, for the sake of this review, I wanted to start with what I didn't love so much about Season 1 so that we can end with the boatload of positive things that I want to say, because believe me, there is a lot of good in this anime. But here's a few of the things that did not work for me this season. I found that the first issue that popped up consistently was pacing, which felt strange. Adding a recap episode to an already short season seemed like an odd choice at the time, and the season as a whole would give me whiplash sometimes from how quickly we were going from a training arc back to the main plot, back to the training arc, back to the main plot. He's got to get stronger. Oh, he's blocked at this gate. He needs to get more abilities to do this. And so it felt kind of disjointed, where almost we were following Jin Wu's side plot and we were following Jin Wu's main plot, and then they weren't necessarily intermingling super well all the time. Though this is a criticism I really struggle with, because it is not that I don't want the training arcs. I think that they're actually really important to the overall enjoyability of the story. But I think we could have used more episodes for this season to develop some more world building and have episodes dedicated to these side quests that Jin Wu is using in order to get stronger to progress the main plot. Just like a video game. Like I said, I don't really have that many critiques, so this is like my final one in terms of critiques, is that, like many other power fantasies, we aren't exactly dealing with an incredibly deep story. Most character interactions and motivations are pretty one note. I mean, there's even a romance that I assume is supposed to be budding between Cha Hae-in and Jin Wu, and it's seemingly based on a love or good smell at first sight trope, which I don't super love. And currently, Jin Wu's main motivation seems to be curing his mother's sickness and taking care of his little sister while working to become the strongest hunter in the world. And I know they're using like the Demon Castle, for example, as a way of bridging these two, in order to create a like more cohesive story. But I just find it a little bit lacking. I feel like it would be pretty hard to argue that complexity and deep, thought-provoking themes are currently present in the show. But the question is that super necessary? And so moving on to the positives, I'm on the camp that says, while I like them, I don't think we need them, because everything about this show is a feast for the eyes. The art direction, the animation, and the combat choreography are so well done that it basically does the job of what everyone really wants from their power fantasy anime and leaves you incredibly hyped after each episode, except for episode 7.5. And while maybe not the most complex story in the world, it's definitely an exciting one. Since the season ended, I've been reading the manhwa off and on since the completion of the anime. And from what I've been able to discern, the anime is doing everything it can to remain faithful to the source material. I also discovered that Solo Leveling is based off of light novels, but I haven't read any of those, so I can't say for sure how well they are doing with adapting that story, but in terms of like the manhwa to screen adaptation, it's pretty good. The producer of Solo Leveling, Furuhashi, also stated that he's doing his best to add extra meat to the story due to the fact that unlike a manga chapter that can be adapted in 2 or 3 episodes, the typical Solo Leveling chapters can at most be stretched to possibly 1.5 episodes. And the director, Nakashinga, I think, also talked about meeting with the original author of the Solo Leveling series to discuss authentic ways to add more to the story that would keep the story entertaining and not feel like filler. So at least in that respect, fans can breathe easy, seeing as they are trying to keep the Solo Leveling story itself as authentic as possible. And while the faithfulness of the story is important to me, what makes the series so enjoyable is that it cures my SAO depression. And while it's not an SAO review, I will say that Jin Wu is everything Kirito should have been. He is incredibly strong and oddly charismatic, despite how little he talks. But the strength of his that he displays multiple times throughout the series, and is like the keynote of like just how amazing the show is, does not come out of nowhere. While both Kirito and Jin Wu are certainly riffs of the Chosen One trope, a trope I don't always love, but I don't always hate, the author of Solo Leveling, Chu Gong, went through a painstaking effort to show how much Jin Wu has to work to master these powers given to him. I mean, what I was saying earlier about the training arcs being important really presents itself in this case, because it is the training arc, it is the effort that you see Jin Wu go through that makes his victories, when he goes through them in like the main plot line, all the more sweeter. I think that in showing Jin Wu's struggle to overcome the challenges after challenges he faces, it just adds to the believability of his overpowered power set. And since all power fantasies revolve around the idea of us as viewers projecting ourselves onto the main character, that makes it all the better. And so, in short, here's my breakdown. Solo Leveling takes the best parts of power fantasy isekai type stories and combines them with the satisfaction-giving aspects of shonen manga to create a refreshing take on the Chosen One archetype. The video game-like dynamics, the fluid art style and animation, and the overall enjoyment an average anime fan would get from watching this show compels me to level Solo Leveling up to a 4 out of 5 star rating. And I'm certainly looking forward to Season 2. Thank you all so much for watching. I know it's been a while since I've dropped any reviews for anything on this channel, but if you enjoyed this type of content, be sure to let me know in the comments below. And while you're down there, why don't you go ahead and leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you again for watching, and be sure to check back soon for another video. But until then, peace. Hey there guys, it looks like you made it to the end of the video, so that means you must have gotten some sort of enjoyment out of it, and if that's the case, then be sure to browse my catalog of videos. We discuss all types of fantasy stories here, including books, manga, television, and movies. And if you'd like to see some more of my anime and manga content specifically, go ahead and click the playlist on screen now. It'll take you to all the videos I've done on anime and manga. Or, if you're interested in more of the traditional fantasy book discussion, check out my video on the merit of Remus Lupin's death from the Harry Potter series. But whatever it is you choose to do next, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Go ahead, click it. You know you want to. Come on, give me the view. You know you want to.